Hello everyone, welcome again to this series of videos in the topic of spiritual awakening. And today I will touch on the subject of what is needed to awake. It's going to be a process, so I will try to make it as orderly as possible. Probably some of the things I will say will not be sequential. They could be probably done at the same time. So let's get started. First of all, we need to understand that the consciousness, the part that we are talking about, is not like how to say, a homogeneous thing. Is not a block, is not the same all over. So it is composed of different structures, different elements. And before we can wake up, we need to have some kind of inventory. We need to have an idea of what do we have inside of ourselves. First of all, we need to understand that we are not one. So this multiplicity needs to be accounted for. And so to get started, we need to have a method. And the method is actually quite simple in principle. We just need to pay attention to what happens inside our psyche. And as you recall, I mentioned that we live inside of this human android kind of thing, is biological entity. We tend to identify ourselves with it, but to be useful for us, we need to kind of imagine ourselves living inside of it, so it will be more useful. And we become thus the observer. So this observer character will be very useful for our purpose. Later we will discover that this observer is just another part of ourselves. But for now, this should be enough. We will identify ourselves with the observer, and this observer will pay attention to a number of things, a number of processes that happen in our life. And to make it easy, we will call this process self-observation. And what are we going to observe? In a most simple and elementary way, we're going to observe our thoughts, our emotions, and our feelings. Apart from this is the part that is harder to do. We will also observe the actions of our own body and the reactions that happen inside our psyche. So, for example, if we move, we need to understand and at least pay attention to why are we moving in a certain way. So this is what is called the animal instinct, and some people call it the body language. But remember that the body language is reflective of our inner psychology. So our psychology is made up of all the reactions, but these reactions have a source. So this source is a process, a psychological process that is triggered. So there are a lot of triggers. You can call them triggers if it makes it easier for you to understand. Or they are like buttons, and these buttons will activate some specific process. So actions from the outside and also processes from the inside trigger reactions, and these reactions become some kind of chain. And in many cases, these become like a chain of events, a chain of reactions. And the first thing we need to do is to pay attention to this, so we will know exactly what is going on, because at this moment we need to kind of trust in the process that The statistics will tell us that 99% of the people is sleeping 99% of the time. So at least in the intellectual level, we need to understand this. And to wake up, we need to understand that we are going to use a part of us that is still sleeping, but at least has some interest, even if a marginal interest, in the process of waking up, whether it is curiosity or not. It doesn't matter too much at the moment. We will try not to judge it. We will try not to analyze it, to condemn it, to make it pay for everything. It's just a part of ourselves, probably another ego, a useful ego at this stage. And this is what we will do. We can account for all the things that happen inside of us. And this will become a very useful exercise. But it's an exercise that, even though it's simple in principle, is hard to maintain during the day, because we tend to become identified, attached to everything, every little event that happens during our day. So we will, at points during the day, forget. We will forget about ourselves. We will forget about our purpose. We will forget about our task, our plan, our interest, our idea, and we will go back to sleep. And maybe after a few months, we will remember, oh, I was supposed to observe myself. Oh, so it doesn't matter. Don't judge yourself too harshly. The main thing is don't give up. And don't give up doesn't mean that you will be perfect. Don't give up means that you will just recover the process and continue from wherever you are. So if you were sleeping and it was only a few minutes later that you remember that you were sleeping, okay, doesn't matter, continue from there. If it was a few hours later, few days later, few months later, doesn't matter, just continue. Don't judge yourself too harshly. Just continue. And in the most simple way, try to write what are you observing. Try to pay attention, because then you will discover habits. You will discover patterns. And this is useful for the process that will come after that. So for now, to make it the simplest way, we will just observe. Remember, observe our thoughts, emotions, feelings, and we will also observe our actions, reactions, and our physical body. So all of these together, we will pay attention to anything that looks important, that looks interesting. Maybe we will discover things that we didn't know we were doing. Maybe we will discover thoughts we didn't know we have, emotions, feelings. So write those down for yourself. You can write them in code in case someone comes upon them and reads them. You won't feel embarrassed. So write them in a way that you will understand what you're talking about and no one else could understand what you're saying. So that's all. It's a very simple exercise. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, just let me know and I will try to answer them in future videos, and I hope to see you again in the next video. Take care.